All right. All right. And we're live. All right. So, Marquise, Priscilla, you have the room.
Appreciate it. Wow. Well, first of all, I'm super excited to be in the space with you guys. I'm a little sad because I couldn't be there in person. I'm actually in Oregon for a training for returning citizens, but nevertheless, we're still here. And I just want to take a brief moment to ground us, in the space we in the environment and what we're seeing at the moment. With that being said, my name is Marquise McKenzie. I am the Membership and Engagement Senior Manager for Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. Did you know that 1 in 5 returning people in Florida are impacted by the criminal justice system? So what that means is, like myself, at the age of 15, I got took out of the juvenile system and I got charged as an adult for my very first offense. So I lost my voting rights before I even had them. And at Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, we take pride in building an ecosystem that returning citizens can feel a part of, feel safe, and not only that, they can feel empowered. And so today, our Know Your Rights presentation is a very simple but engaging, informative presentation on ways that returning citizens still can feel like they have dignity, they can feel educated, and then not only that, they can feel empowered. But also, this presentation is a way for community members, stakeholders, allies, can learn the ways that they can also empower returning citizens right there in their community. And before I transition, hand it over to my colleague Priscilla, I just want to share a quick story with you guys that I will hope will motivate you guys as you go through this journey. And it's called The Starving Monkey. And I stole this story from our executive director, Desmond Meade. And so one day you had about a few scientists, biologists, they was out in the rainforest and they was just doing some research and they came across a monkey that was passed away, right? And so they took the monkey to the lab, and after they did some of their research and testing, they found out that the monkey had passed away from starvation. It was very crazy to them because this monkey, when they found the monkey, had his hands in a jar of peanuts. And so after they did a little more digging, they realized that the monkey had his hands inside of the jar of peanuts, and the monkey tried to take all of the peanuts out at one time and got so frustrated, so angry that it just starved itself to death trying to get all of the peanuts at one time. But if the monkey would have just took one peanut at a time at the jar, no matter how hungry he was, he could have possibly ate all of those peanuts in one setting and would have never died of starvation. So what I mean by that is that it's many returning citizens and people in our community who are impacted by the criminal justice system. We want to save all of them, right? But we can't, just being transparent. But we do find something in that us taking our time, being very intentional, right? That we can actually save a lot of returning citizens by helping one at a time. And eventually we'll be able to help a lot of returning citizens collectively. And we want to do that by being, again, transparent. We also want to make sure that we're not being transactional, but we're being transformative with those returning citizens. And so that's my spiel about the starving monkey. Don't be a starving monkey. Take your stuff at a time. I know firsthand, I went to prison at the age of 15. I know all the hardships. I know the battles, and I know everything it takes just trying to be a human and get out there and do the right thing. But I want to just encourage you guys on this fight just to stay focused, take it day at a time, and just, continue to be a community and help each other collectively. With that being said, I want to pass it over to Priscilla. We just appreciate, on behalf of the organization, we appreciate you guys allowing us to come in St. Pete, and just break bread with you guys and be able to tap in and build community. And then a huge shout out to our team that we have on staff that's at the facility. After the presentation, guys, please do not hesitate to go to the table and engage with our team members and ask them questions and ways that either you can get involved, ways you can help with your situation, or ways that you can actually empower other people right there in your community. I appreciate you guys, and I look forward to getting on the ground in St. Pete and meeting all of you guys in person. Priscilla, it's your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction, Marquise. Hi, everyone. It's good to see everyone from afar. And so we will get started here with the presentation. So again, I'm going to echo Marquise. Any questions? I'm actually going to be hanging on after the presentation. If there's anything you all have for me, I'm always happy to just hang here and answer any of those questions. And then, of course, as Marquise said, our colleagues on the ground are also happy to assist with any additional guidance or questions you have. So we'll get started. Thank you all for joining us. We're so glad to be here. We have this QR code if you're interested in becoming a member after we give our spiel, and you'll also be able to access this QR code with our colleagues who are there in person today. So we'll move on into the next slide now. Thank you. This is the Know Your Rights presentation. Good to go. Thank you so much. So, FRRC, and actually, I didn't even introduce myself. I'm so sorry. My name is Priscilla. I'm the Operations Program Coordinator with FRRC. And so FRC is a nonpartisan grassroots organization. We work specifically, and our organization is run by returning citizens who are formerly convicted persons. And so we dedicate a lot of our work to assisting disenfranchised returning citizens in being able to access their voting rights. We also create and foster a membership led like chapters and organization in order for us to build community as we also build our movement. Our vision here is based on of galvanized returning citizens, grassroots activists, and justice impacted people. Ownership of community organizing, that's something we're really, really big on, which again extends into our membership and why it's so vital for us to build that community externally, but also internally. And again, we assist individuals in understanding and restoring their voting rights, civil rights, ultimately clemency within the state of Florida. All right, we're good to move on to the next slide. Thank you so much. All right, so just to give you all a little bit of background, some history, sort of how FRC began. So Marquise mentioned our previous and amazing executive director, Mr. Desmond Meade. So back in 2017, actually, Desmond and at the time, his team, his family were really, really big. In being able to ensure that disenfranchised and returning citizens would access their rights. And so in 2017, the Supreme Court approved FRC's petition, which was collective of signatures to pass Amendment 4, to put Amendment 4 on the ballot. For the 2018 election. And so that was huge, right? Because it would open up the doors, which we're about to get to that point, for 1.4 million people to access their voting rights. So then now move on to 2018, 64% of Floridians voted to restore their voting rights, which culminated to 1.4 million people. That was, again, huge, being able to be part of a movement that assisted returning citizens in restoring their voting rights, but also understanding that the folks who wanted this were Floridians as a whole. This was a full community and statewide movement, even national within the U.S. Then in 2019, the Amendment 4 becomes law. This ended a lifetime of a ban on voting rights for most previously convicted felons. So that meant that prior to this, 750,000 Floridians disqualified due to fines and fees now had this access to vote. Then in 2020, FRC raised over 30 million for 40,000 plus returning citizens to assist with those fines and fees. So there were more than 190,000 returning citizens that registered to vote in that year's November election, which again, huge numbers and awesome. In 2021, FRC was successful in leading an effort to reform clemency, which Ms. Gail, who's on the ground, she's one of our organizers, one of our awesome clemency persons. So she can give you more information on that as well. But this reform on clemency in 21 included the reversal of the waiting period to apply for the civil rights restoration. So again, that was big, right? These various delays that we were hoping to mitigate across the passing of these various laws and amendments and everything to ensure that the reform was for the community, was for Floridians, and specifically for disenfranchised individuals. Then in 22, FRC continued to build our movement and gain power in every region across the state, counties, different cities, towns, just making it known that FRC was here to support any and every returning citizen in our community. In 2023, FRC is nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. And then in July, FRC filed a lawsuit. So we filed a lawsuit against the state for failing to do its job and fix the broken election system. Part of this lawsuit also included the advisory opinion process, which we'll get into through this conversation and this presentation today. But yeah, the lawsuit was instrumental in just holding, of course, what we did and what we agreed with the state to do, but also holding the state accountable and ensuring that what was agreed upon across all these various amendments and laws did in fact support and not make it harder for returning citizens. All right, we're good to move on. Thank you so much. Awesome. You guys are the best with the slides. All right, so going into some basics, so we're gonna give you the rundown of like disqualifying offenses, the sentencing document, all of that good jazz, just so you kind of get an idea of the work that we do here and specifically how it pertains to assisting our returning citizens. So restoring your voting rights under Amendment 4, that means that we cannot assist, and because again this is under Amendment 4, we're unable to assist individuals who have two disqualifying offenses as they appear in Amendment 4 and specifically under the statute 98.0751. So under that statute, it details out that if a previously convicted individual has murder or felony sexual offense conviction, unfortunately, due to that amendment, it's not possible to restore those voting rights. The other important thing to note here is in order to restore the rights, the returning citizen must then have completed all terms of the felony sentence, so including the payment of fines and fees as part of the sentence, which we will get to because that's also a process that we assist with. But fines and fees, probation, incarceration, etc. And then lastly, for voter fraud, so it is a third-degree felony to register or to vote when you're ineligible to do so. And we actually did have a situation where folks were arrested specifically in Alachua County due to this, and was also part of the reason why we sued the state was because in Alachua, prior to to noting that like returning citizens had to pay these fines and fees, many were unaware and made, an honest attempt at engaging in democracy. It wasn't because they didn't want to pay these fines and fees, is because they weren't aware or didn't know they even had outstanding fines and fees. So the state caught wind of this, and of course that brought us back to the courts, right? And we tried to hash this out, but ultimately it is a third-degree felony to register to vote. And so that's why we try and create these preventative measures on our end as well to ensure folks have the knowledge and the understanding of what it means to have those outstanding fines and fees and how vital and important it is to be aware of those prior to ever, registering to vote or getting that card. And we also want you to get to that point, right? We want you to be able to register to vote, but we also want to make sure that we follow the laws, we move forward with you, and we're here to support through that. And yeah, the second bullet point there just kind of reiterates that fact. Yeah, so you can move on. Thank you. So this is kind of the roadmap to restoring voting rights under Amendment 4, which we'll be going through step by step. And we'll start with sentencing. You can move on to the next one here. Thank you so much. So when an individual has their conviction, there usually is a sentencing document attached. And this sentencing document is very, very vital and important because it often includes the offenses or the charges that are on that case. It may include the total amount of fines and fees, maybe restitution. And again, it reminds us and allows us to see within those four corners, like what the court has ultimately imposed upon a returning citizen. And so the other thing, which isn't on up here, but something that I want y'all to know, is about the four corners rule. So under Amendment 4.2, it indicates that within the four corners of the sentencing document, those are the terms that returning citizen must follow. So let's say, for example, and we have had returning citizens in this situation where, let's say they have in their sentencing document that they owe $150 in fines and fees, but it was a case from 2020. It's been 6 years at this point, and they perhaps weren't aware of the fact, or they have been unable to pay due to other financial commitments. And so there's been, taxes and fees, and perhaps it's even been taken to a collection agency, which now means that $150 has inflated, has now become $1,000, $2,000, right? Because it's been so long and all these fees have been attaching. But for the purposes of restoring your voting rights, because in the four corners of that sentencing document, it indicates you only need to pay $150, and that's what Amendment 4 says. You only need to pay what's in the sentencing document and meet the terms within that to restore your voting rights. So that's why I want y'all to take note of that as well, and the importance of, again, knowing what's within that document and what it means to restore your rights. All right, thank you so much. So next one here, and this one and the next slide are similar. So the next step here is incarceration. If an individual is incarcerated for a felony offense, they cannot register to vote while serving that sentence, because again, in the document and according to Amendment 4, you have to have completed all the terms of your sentence, and that includes incarceration. That includes, you can go to the next slide, probation or parole, supervised release, work release. If someone is still on work release, on probation, unfortunately, due to that Amendment 4, it will not allow us to move forward with an applicant in these situations. However, we do urge individuals who are still on probation, if they sign up, which we've had a few who will sign up, and after the fact, we inform returning citizens of this, but we still keep those records on our end, because sometimes once someone is off probation, unless it's in their terms that they have to complete probation and pay everything off, we have some returning citizens who may still have outstanding fines and fees, whether it's on that same case, on another case, and so we still want to be able to assist, but again, have to completely be off probation, parole, or any supervised release. Thank you. All right, so now we talked a little bit already about these fines and fees, the court costs, and we'll also delve into the restitution. And also, if y'all have any questions, I should have said this sooner, but please write them down, save them to the end. Again, I'm gonna be hanging out at the end a little bit, so I'm happy to answer any additional thoughts or even a conversation that anyone may want to have. But yes, with the fines and fees, As we discussed, those may appear in that sentencing document, or sometimes, depending on the county, they may put it in a separate document that's like court costs or court costs and fine costs. Um, but that's really what'll be the indicator for us to know how many fines and fees are owed, and for the purposes of what. Fees from misdemeanors and traffic offenses do not have to be paid off in order for someone to restore their voting rights. We assist as part of our process in researching each county a returning citizen has fines and fees in, and each case within that county, right? Because we may have a returning citizen who maybe only has convictions in Polk County. We may have another one who perhaps has one or two in Orange and Seminole, or so it really depends. The other thing about misdemeanors and traffic. So again, the emphasis on we specifically, and because of Amendment 4, work with returning citizens who have those felony convictions. So if someone has, let's say, only misdemeanors in Orange County, unfortunately, that's not necessarily under Amendment 4. That person can continue with obtaining their voting rights, but for the purposes of our organization, we would not be able to modify or assist with any fines and fees regarding misdemeanors or traffic cases, basically any cases that are not felony convictions. So yeah, we assist with the process of researching those, ensuring we're aware of that as well. And now when it comes to restitution, all amounts that are ordered within restitution must be paid to a quote unquote victim. And so if this is part of a felony sentence, that is one of those four corner situations where it has to be met before we can step in and assist with the modification process, which I will also be explaining as we keep moving forward. But yeah, we have had returning citizens, for example, who are in the situation of having restitution on a felony conviction. And unfortunately, because the state believes the restitution should be paid to that quote unquote victim, therefore, we are unable to move forward with the modification process. So that's why we emphasize that that does need to be paid off before we assist with any other remainder fines, fees, and court costs. All right, thank you. So now we're moving into my bread and butter, which is advisory opinion. I'm pretty familiar with this process. I work quite a bit with our department, with the AO. So what is the AO? This is, again, one of those situations where we did have to litigate and speak with the state, have a court legal conversation about like, hey, we need to come to an agreement because the process we had back in 23, 24 prior to that was causing so many delays, was taking months, years, like it was taking way too long, and didn't align with our desire to ensure that returning citizens accessed their voting rights. So now the AO process, the advisory opinion program, and specifically the advisory opinion form and application, helps returning citizens request a written confirmation regarding their voting eligibility from Florida's Division of Elections. Okay. And we do submit those AOs, advisory opinions, on behalf of our returning citizens. And so what happens, right, once we've submitted this application, let's say our returning citizen has completed their intake, we've done research on the counties, we've identified what fines and fees are owed in the county or counties that they may have charges in, and now we've completed this advisory opinion, our returning citizen has signed it, and now we have sent it to the state. So the advisory opinion application is then submitted to the Florida Division of Elections. This takes, after our submission, up to 90 days for the state to provide us a response, okay? And once we receive this response from the state, it may give us more information on, or it does give us rather, the information on the voting eligibility. So if a returning citizen has, in fact, outstanding fines and fees, it'll tell us exactly what those are. If there is, let's say, for example, we've had situations where unfortunately our returning citizen wasn't aware that there was restitution on a case. And we did our research, we tried to QC, we didn't locate exactly amounts or to who. And so therefore, when we submitted the AO, it came back and the state told us, hey, XYZ case, there's this amount of restitution. So, it adds not just that additional information for us, but also an added layer of protection for our returning citizen. That AO response is essentially a legal document from the state confirming the eligibility. If a returning citizen is ineligible, we use this form, the AO response, as part of our modification process when we connect our returning citizens to attorneys. So if a returning citizen is eligible to move forward, it may say, at this time, XYZ returning citizen cannot move forward. They're ineligible to vote. And that's okay, right? That's where we step in and we say, all right, we're going to modify this to ensure that they can become eligible. And at times we've had returning citizens where our responses come back and it tells us this person is eligible. There were felony convictions, maybe they were dismissed, maybe, they were dropped, maybe they paid their fines and fees and they hadn't fully been aware of that. And again, the document is vital in our process to ensuring that our returning citizens are on the right path to restore their voting rights. So yes, that's the advisory opinion process there. Thank you. And so now I keep mentioning this modification, but now I get the opportunity to share with you all a little bit about what this is. So our modification process helps returning citizens who have those outstanding fines and fees ultimately convert them into community service hours. So the way I usually explain it to returning citizens I speak with is like, basically, instead of you paying financially with money, these fines and fees, you're paying back to your community with, your service. And so we've actually with Marquise have been, and I know Marquise actually is the one that's like spearheading and revamping the community service team and department within FRRC. But yes, we set up our returning citizen. Once we've gotten through AO, everything, we have that response. We set our returning citizen up with a pro bono attorney that is able to ultimately, again, get those outstanding fines and fees waived or converted into that community service. So we often, of course, advise our attorneys to say, hey, let's waive this amount that's on here, right? But to be honest, in the state of Florida, that does not happen often, where courts or judges are inclined to waive an amount of fines and fees. So then therefore our agreement, under Amendment 4 now becomes, all right, let's convert these to community service hours. Though there are no guarantees, we do, again, and are revamping our community service program. So we try to make it as accessible as we can for returning citizens. We understand that, a lot of people have lives, like you have a job, perhaps a family, you have other commitments and responsibilities that honestly going to a community service may not be as easy, right? But we want to be sure that you still engage with your community, that you still have access to completing these hours. And so here at FRC, we ensure that, folks can hop on a Zoom call every Monday and Thursday with our community talks. Those chapter meetings that I know are also Ms. Gail and Marquise are going to start revamping a little bit more. Those all include and are part of our returning citizens getting their community service hours in. Again, acknowledging that folks have lives, people are busy, and also we want to support you and we want to be sure that you can squash these hours as soon as possible to move forward and restore your voting rights and civil rights. Um, and so, yeah, again, we guide through that process. We have even some returning citizens who have their own community partnership or perhaps a community agency they already engage with. We have returning citizens who are connected to their church and do community service that way. You know, there's many avenues. And again, we pride ourselves in being able to support and guide through that, and just make sure that when our returning citizens get to this point, they can move forward and get these hours done and restore their voting rights. All right, thank you so much. So here we go. We're reaching the end, y'all. So if you are ready to vote, we want everyone and anyone to vote, especially for this upcoming election in our state of Florida. It's going to be a big one. A new governor, so big changes. But you can register to vote at the website here. Miss Gail and our ladies on the ground, Miss Dana and Excellence, can also assist if you all have questions, whether it's about your fines and fees, or you may be ready and you don't have fines and fees anymore, you want to register. So be sure to hit up our table there. You can also check your registration status on this website up here. I can actually share this as well to our team. There's the QR code I mentioned they'll be able to pull up to become a member, but I'll also include these two links on that one pager we have. And so lastly, please note that receiving or having a voter information card does not confirm that you're eligible to vote with regard to a prior felony conviction. Please refer to that voter eligibility checklist. So again, we don't want folks who perhaps they're unsure if they're ready to vote, or perhaps there is a felony conviction they're unsure about. We want you to double check, and that's what we're here for, to support you and be sure that you are in fact prepared and ready to get that card. Yeah, so we can move on. Thank you so much. All right, so just to review some of the information we went over today, which I know it was a lot I threw at y'all. So please digest it at your own will and as much as you can. You have to be sure you've never been convicted of a disqualifying offense, which under Amendment 4 and the statute is a murder or a felony sexual offense. You can contact, but again, if you want to work with us to check on this, then we're happy to assist there. There are some caveats with the murder or felony sexual offense as well. Under the statute, the murder has to have been committed. So ultimately, like an actual killing of a human being. If it's attempted murder, that still actually qualifies a returning citizen to restore their rights, because attempt doesn't mean the actual killing, it's an attempt. With regards to the felony sexual offense, similarly, unless you have you are registered as a sexual offender, we have returning citizens who perhaps had an attempt of that offense and still do qualify under the Amendment 4 to restore those rights. We want to ensure you're not currently incarcerated, no open cases, no probation, or any type of custodial or supervisory release. And then that you have paid all restitution. So again, that's one of those things. Sometimes we're in a catch-22 where a returning citizen has probation, and they have that restitution and fines and fees as part of their probation. And unfortunately, even if they have those fines and fees, they have to finish their probation first, before we move forward. And of course, the restitution. And then the last one, I will say, again, it depends, right? If you have not paid all your fines and fees, we're here to support and ensure that if those are unable to be paid off, that we can assist in that modification process. For you to obtain your voting rights. So, all right, we're now for real, we're reaching our end. So this is just a slide for you all to kind of know, right? Know your rights, know what to say, what to do. and how to engage with law enforcement should there ever be a situation where there's inquiries or questions regarding voter fraud. So of course, be polite and courteous, remain calm, which I'm sure can be hard, but remain calm. Ask for ID from the individual. Do not answer any questions, but you can ask questions to law enforcement. Insist on speaking to that lawyer before answering any questions. Your rights do not require you to answer law enforcement questions until there's an attorney present with you. Um, Similarly to being polite and courteous, respectfully ask the law enforcement to leave. Make notes, document if that means you have to immediately write a note or create an audio, voice audio or something just to ensure that there is record of what occurred. And then call us. We're here to support, we're here to help. And we're here to continue ensuring that our community, our Floridians, returning citizens can and will get their voting rights restored. So, lastly, please join us in our social media for any updates. Again, here's our QR code to become a member. And yeah, as I mentioned, our awesome ladies on the ground are there to answer any of the questions. I'll be hanging around for the next 25 minutes or so, should y'all have any other questions. And I think that's it. I think that about closes it up. So thank you so much for being here.
That's why. How about now? Can you hear us, Priscilla?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I didn't know you were talking earlier. I'm sorry.
All right, I was muted. And so we just wanted to, again, thank you and then open it up for those who are here. If you have any questions that you'd like to get answered, now would be the space for you to do so. Questions? Okay, so that means you did a really good job.
I hope so. I'm gonna be hanging around in case anyone is shy. Like, feel free to come up and or however you want to do it. I'm here
Okay,
to help.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank
Awesome.
you again. And I think that actually concludes the presentation. So Priscilla says she would be here. She's going to stick around.
Hmm.
And so if you have any questions, again, I think that, uh-oh. If you have any questions, oh yeah, I meant to ask or I forgot to ask, we'll be here. The Florida Rights Restoration Coalition is here. I think most of you have visited the tables to get the information. And so please, if you see somebody in the audience who you thought you knew, but you don't really know, get to know them in this fellowship, have a good time. But this basically concludes the workshop portion. And so now we're just going to fellowship and hang out. Miss Lolita, you have?
Yes,
Yes.
before you leave, if you signed up, please continue to get your appreciation attendance stipend before you leave, okay? But you have to have already signed up at the table.
Okay. Is there anybody who has not signed up at the table? This is tough. All right, so see Miss Lolita, and then Gabby, you got something? We can't hear you, Gabby. Say it again. I couldn't hear you.
I said, don't get. I know the time. You know, we have like we at one meeting, just like no minute. Please don't forget to like on matter. Incredible information for you, our push. Yeah, everything back there is free. Each incredible information, but just see us.
Thank you. And then last thing that I'll say, I know we said the last thing was the last thing. Last thing we'll say is the Childs Park Neighborhood Association. We want to acknowledge our board members who are in the building. So if you're a member of the board or as committee lead, please stand so we can recognize you. We have our Vice President Jamie in the back. Let's give it up for Jamie. Y'all know Jamie, right? Our treasurer, Miss Lolita, making sure everybody gets appreciated and signed in. Give her a round of applause. We have a board member at large, Teresa Lynn over here, is also health and wellness chair. Give it up for her. And our secretary, she has about as many hats as I have. So our secretary, Ms. Effie Solomon Ward, doing an amazing job. Thank you. And then we have the chair of our membership committee, Ms. Robin Wynn. She was at the table, that smiling face, shouts out. Get to our round of applause. And then thank you to everyone who served. Thank you to the food team. Look, we say thank you all night, even if we have 10,000. But I appreciate everybody and thank y'all for coming out. And this concludes our presentation. Yes.
The Blackest Bus in America here. So please take photos here.
Okay. So we're simple for a photo in front of the blackest bus in America. All right, Priscilla, you have a question for the presenter? Is it for the presenter? Okay, let me see. Let's see if I can turn this around. All right. Trying to get this camera where you can see him. We're gonna end the live stream. So real quick. So thank you to everybody who was on the live. Appreciate y'all. It'll be like 2 minutes and then we'll be right back. One second. Get this out so.